Erik Spoelstra had some comments about Kel'el Ware, but does he have a point or has he taken it too far? Plus the latest on Giannis Antetokounmpo's future on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com now to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We're going to get to this Giannis report in a second, but we got to start with this Erik Spoelstra sound from after the Heat's preseason game against the Bucks. We didn't talk about this, David, immediately after the preseason game on Monday night because we recorded right after the buzzer. Spo talked with reporters afterwards, called Kel'el Ware out, despite the fact that Ware finished with 18 points and 13 rebounds, most of which happened in the fourth quarter. But as Spo also pointed out, Ware was a minus 21 in the game. Here is what Erik Spoelstra had to say.
Yeah, there was a 3-minute segment where it actually impacted the game. The rest of it, it has to impact the game. I'm not looking at the stat line. I think everybody's looking at the wrong thing. It's got to impact the game. I wanted him the next game to be a plus 20, right? That's what it's about. And that's part of the maturation for a young player. He does really good things, and then when you aren't able to do it consistently, it doesn't impact the game. And you don't want to have deflating plays. You want to have inspired plays. That steal he had at half court was an inspiring play that impacted the moment. And there was probably a 3-minute stretch there. I guess I want to take that 3-minute stretch and see what his plus minus was on that, because it impacted the game. And that's part of him as a young player connecting the dots. That does not matter if you have 18 and 13, if it's not impacting the game, really.
David, is he being too hard on Kel'el?
It seems like he's nitpicking a little bit. I don't know if too hard is the right way of looking at it. I think he's doing this deliberately. And I know from the fan perspective, it's easy to kind of see what Spo is saying and taking it at face value as something that is kind of just, I think, being critical, overly critical, perhaps, of Kel'el Ware, because we're seeing now the second time in a matter of months of him, actually the third time now that I think about it, because he did that earlier this summer as well.
In Vegas,
yeah, in Vegas, and then again in camp, I think he had some comments, and then now as well. So he's looking for something. What is it that Spo always says? We're not for everybody. Like, he wants players to be able to respond for all of his warts and everything else, and even the way that he exited this team. Spo loved Jimmy Butler's competitive fire, and that's something that is a trademark of players that seem to succeed here in Miami. And I don't think he finds that or he sees that in Kel'el Ware at this point. And he's trying to light that fire as best as possible. And so I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's working, though. I don't think it's too harsh for me personally. I think he hasn't done anything that is overtly critical or to the point where it could eat away at his confidence. But I don't think Kel'el's responding to it. I don't know what Kel'el's buttons are, but I don't think Spo's pressing him in the right way as his head coach. And he might have to go in there with a completely different approach. To be honest with you, I don't even know that Ware has that level to him, though. I mean, because these are concerns that have been going back for a number of years now, going to his collegiate career, and he just might not have that motivation. I don't know what it is. We've talked about this before, and you brought it up, a really good point. Sometimes 7-footers just don't love the game. They are taller than everybody else, and they don't really need to kind of thrust into this life where it's like, well, hell, boy, you're so tall, you better play basketball. And why the heck not? It's an easy pathway to perhaps getting in the NBA and getting paid millions of dollars. So it makes sense why you would push for that. But it's not necessarily somebody who's a foot shorter who lives and breathes basketball to such a degree that they have to push themselves constantly because that's the only pathway for them to be able to make it. At 7 feet tall, you're just so much more talented. You don't have to drive. You don't have to push You're better than everybody else, and you might just not love the game to that point where you need to feel the way to motivate yourself on a constant basis. And that's what Spo is looking for, and that's why these comments have been as critical and on point as they have.
I don't know that he's being too hard, and I don't know that it's not working. I think it might be a little too early to tell whether it's working or not, right? But we do know that this is purposeful by Erik Spoelstra, and that he wouldn't be doing this if he didn't exhaust other options, because this is not what Spo does. And I think that's what catches Heat fans so off guard by this. Is surprising. This is out of character for Erik Spoelstra. And I think Heat fans see this and think that he's being unfairly critical because it's out of character, that he has some sort of vendetta or something against Kel'el Ware. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that Erik Spoelstra truly thinks that this is what he has to do to get what he wants to get out of Kel'el Ware. The other thing that Spo keeps talking about is we're coaching him hard. And I think this is part of it. I think this is part of him coaching him hard. We'll see if it works, to your point. Maybe he's not pushing the right buttons here. But I'll tell you, Bam is trying to get through to him.
Yes.
Udonis Haslem is trying to get through to him. Malik Allen is trying to get through to him. And I think if Erik Spoelstra thought that they were doing enough behind the scenes, that Bam and Malik and UD and all this stuff was enough to get through to him, Spo wouldn't be doing this. But Erik Spoelstra has made a point in being he's made a decision. Back in Las Vegas, he apparently made a decision. I'm going to call this guy out in the media because I believe that that might be something that lights a fire under him. And we'll see if it works. But I actually understand why Heat fans are so shocked by this and are reacting the way that they are, because they don't have the information that you and I have. They also don't, and you and I don't even see what's going on behind the scenes, right? And because it's so out of character for Spo, it almost feels personal, where I don't believe it to be personal. I believe it to be Erik Spoelstra just coaching him differently. And by the way, this is a very different team than Erik Spoelstra has really ever coached after the first couple of years. Like, since the Big Three era, and by the way, in first 2 years of Erik Spoelstra versus now Erik Spoelstra, two different head coaches, two different people.
Yep.
Since the Big Three era, he hasn't had to coach young teams. This is a young team with the last 7 draft picks on the roster. It's a different kind of job. I'd argue Erik Spoelstra's never done this job before. In all of his years of coaching, he's never done this job of developing a young roster. And for him to change the way that he goes about coaching it makes actually more sense than if he were to try to coach it the same way that he tried to coach a team with LeBron or D Wade or Chris Bosh or Jimmy Butler or Kevin Love on it. It's a different kind of team now, and I think it requires a different kind of approach.
There's so much to really it's such an interesting thing when you look at it in that lens about how Spo is handling this coaching challenge that he's never had to. And even like you look at players on the roster, and I know some people watching us on YouTube have been critical of Erik Spoelstra and like making comparisons to other players on the roster. And I'll say this, he's never questioned Nico to this degree. And I think that says something. Like, Nico might not be more productive than Kel'el, but he's giving whatever effort that he can, which is why Spo isn't critical.
And can I jump in? I mean, he did say something in the post game yesterday about Nico's rebounding and how he just has to rebound better. So it's not as if it's not to the degree that he's critical of Kel'el being like,
right.
Hey, dude just has to play harder. I don't care about his points and his rebounds. Like, he's not going that far with Nico, but he is saying like, hey, he's doing all these other things that we really appreciate, and he's being very complimentary of Nico, but then also adding, we need to see more of him as a rebounder. But even that by itself, like compared to the Ware comments, is like nothing. Yes. But if you remove the Ware comments from the ether and just take the Nico stuff compared to how Spo used to talk about his players, even that is kind of jarringly different.
Maybe. I'm trying to think. Like the stands out to me the most about the Ware comments is like he played 23 minutes. He said basically you were good for 3 of them and you sucked for 20 of them. That's kind of harsh. That's really harsh for Spo to say. But I'm trying to think, like in the 17 years now since Spo has been a head coach, like Michael Beasley and Hassan Whiteside, and that's it. Who else has made the doghouse to this degree as far as being attacked via the media? I can't think of anybody else.
Kyle Lowry was in the doghouse, but he didn't attack him in the media.
No, you earned too much respect at that point. Like maybe he stunk out on the floor, but you're not going to say anything to 35-year-old NBA.
We know that there were parts of Tyler Hero's game that frustrated him.
Sure,
but never called him out in the media.
Nope, never had to.
But the other thing that he respected about Tyler Hero was that he was putting in the work behind the scenes. So maybe he didn't feel he never felt like he needed to go to that. There are coaches, first resort, call them out in the media. You know who they are. We don't have to name them. There are other coaches, last resort, never do it. Spo is in that latter camp, but it is an option that if he feels like could bring the most out of a player, he's going to do it. Was Erik Spoelstra too hard on Kel'el Ware? Was he too critical? Were there really only 3 good minutes out of the 23? We'll tell you what we found on the tape after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, well, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can find a way to maximize investments. You can increase your savings. You can review finances with your partner and or financial advisor. You can do all this at Monarch Money. That's what makes this tool so beneficial to you, because it lays it all out clearly, and there's so many different options to help you make the most of your money. And that's really what you're looking for, especially in today's world. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKDOWNNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKDOWNNBA. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. So, David, I went back to the tape. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I was just thinking, the comment. It feels like you were trying to keep me from doing my Doc Rivers impersonation. We were talking about coaches who might throw players under the bus. But
that's right. I did. It was literally the name that came to mind. Yeah, you don't do it, but you can if you want.
That's right.
No, so I went back and watched the film after listening to Erik Spoelstra's comments last night. It sounded harsh. I'll tell you what I found that was surprising. So he finishes as 18-13. We talked about on the recap how he did most of his work in the fourth quarter, 14 of his 18 points in the fourth quarter. So I thought going into it, all right, I'm going to watch the first half, and I'm probably going to just see a bunch of blunders, and I'll probably get what Erik Spoelstra was saying before Kel'el Ware kind of found his footing in that game. Not the case. Not the case. I thought Ware was better in the first half than he was in the second half. Might sound surprising. Wes, you're crazy. He had 14 points in the fourth. Well, he was the only guy who showed up in the fourth quarter. All these, okay. I hear it. But when Erik Spoelstra says, I don't care about the points and the rebounds, if you're not impacting winning, I think I see what at least it irked Erik Spoelstra before he had a chance to watch the film, right? This is immediately after the game. What is the thing that bothered him, that made him say what he said after the game? So let me start with the first half. I thought his rebounding was really good. Even if he wasn't grabbing the rebound, I thought he was establishing position. I thought he was boxing out well. If he didn't grab the rebound, he didn't hang his head. He didn't get disheartened. He went right back at it the next time, boxed out, established position, etc. I thought his rebounding was really good in the first half. Could have set some better screens, but that's always the case with Kel'el Ware and young bigs in general. I think he could be a better screen setter, but nothing jumped out to the point where he was just, not doing his job, right? I think he's just working on setting better screens. There was a series in the first half where he settled for a mid-range jumper and then let Miles Turner get back to the basket on the other end. And I would imagine that jumps out in film right away. That's going to be pointed out to him. Hey, if you're taking that mid-range jumper, get back. You can't let your guy then beat you down to the other end and score at the basket, which is, by the way, where we want you scoring. We don't want you settling for fall-away LaMarcus Aldridge jumpers anymore. But out of the first half, that one mid-range jumper to the Miles Turner score was the one glaring thing where I was like, that's a problem. They're going to call that one out on film.
That's in the 20 minutes, not in the 3 minutes.
That didn't fall in the 3 minutes. The
Right.
second half was worse. So Precious Achiuwa starts the second half. I do wonder if that was the plan. Or maybe that was another way for Spo to try to send a message. But Precious Achiuwa starts the second half. They go about 8 minutes. Kel'el Ware comes back in. He settles for a pull-up three-pointer on a series where he doesn't have the ball. He could have set a screen for a teammate. Instead of doing that, he just kind of floats over here at the top of the arc, gets the ball passed to him, and instead of doing anything with it, just sort of settles for this pull-up three. That is not the shot that they want him to. You could shoot threes, but it has to be trailing threes in transition, spacing to the corner, pick and pop. Not, here's the ball, don't do anything with it for a couple of beats, and then just settle for a pull-up three-pointer. That's not the shot that they want him taking. He got pushed out of the way for an offensive rebound by a smaller player on Milwaukee. He chased a guard for a block. He was chasing a block, ended up way out of position, and then let Milwaukee score on a dunk. That was on him. He got, on one series in the fourth quarter, the ball just stolen away from him. He got the ball at the top of the key, didn't know what to do with it, acted like he'd never seen a basketball before, and just got the ball stolen from him, and then the Milwaukee scored in transition. And then more generally, just spent a lot of time floating on the perimeter, not making an impact against, I think, at that point, a smaller Milwaukee lineup. If I'm the Heat coaches, I'm saying, hey, you're the biggest guy on the court. It's a little bit summer league-ish, where it's just like, hey, dude, I know you think it's fourth quarter of a meaningless preseason game, but here's your opportunity to establish dominance, and we want to see you do it. Preseason, regular season, playoffs, we want to see you do it. And he just really wasn't doing that in the fourth quarter. And I kind of have to agree with Spo. I kind of said it yesterday on the recap. This is a guy who can just sort of roll out of bed with a double-double. And it kind of felt like that's what happened. He kind of felt like he sleepwalked his way into a double-double, 14 points in the fourth quarter. They lost that game. They were and by the way, that minus 21, he was only a minus 6 in the first half. The rest of it came in the second half when he was doing all the scoring and all those points. It didn't matter. It was empty. It was empty stats. So I kind of agree with Spo after watching it again.
No, it makes sense. And for those, because I can almost hear them already sharpening their knives to try to defend him for some reason. This is a preseason game, so maybe this isn't game 7 of the playoff series, but so what? This is a second-year player who hasn't done anything. He needs to be out there giving maximum effort. He needs to. This isn't about risking injury. No. You take plays off some other place, some other career. Not at the NBA level. There are guys here fighting for their NBA careers during the preseason. They can't afford to take a minute off. And a guy like Kel'el is simply too talented. So, yeah, maybe it's not the most critical juncture of a critical game, but that doesn't mean that he can afford to take plays off, take whole series off, take whole minutes and quarters off. Like, that's not going to cut it. He needs to be out here doing the maximum possible. And I think that's what Spo wants. He's trying to light that fire. And for him to just be out there as talented as he is, as big as he is, and as capable of reaching his potential, he's just not living up to it. And I think there's definitely an emotional, psychological, whatever you want to call it, factor between the ears where he just needs to be able to find that way of taking it to the next level, because he's not going to get more playing time. And I'll add this, if he's not doing it in the games, he's probably not doing it in practices either, or else he'd be starting. He
He's
just
not doing it in practices. We already heard that from Spo. He needs to see it more in training camp. He wasn't doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's not doing it in practices. He's not doing it in games. He's not Jimmy Butler in his 12th, 13th season who could say, yeah, I'm not going to play the preseason because I don't want to. Look, the Heat staff didn't like that either, but they certainly knew what he was capable of. This is a completely different situation. If Kel'el wants to do it and take the whole preseason off and all of a sudden just say, you know what, I'm going to come out looking like a Hall of Famer in the regular season, fine. But he's not. He just hasn't done it. He hasn't done it. And our last memories of him in a game that actually matters is Jared Allen mopping the floor with Kel'el Ware, despite the fact that they're similarly sized.
Right.
That's not a good look.
No.
That is not a good look. From there, then you go to like a on and off summer league, and then an on and off preseason. At some point, he needs to figure it out and do a little bit more.
I don't think that this is a case of Erik Spoelstra and the Heat giving up on Kel'el Ware.
Not
As
yet.
we know, they kept him out of Kevin Durant trade talks. They drew the line there, right? They do believe in his ceiling. I actually think this is the opposite. Like,
Yes.
benching Kel'el Ware is not giving up on Kel'el Ware. This is them trying to maximize Kel'el Ware and trying whatever it takes to try to get him to reach his ceiling. We'll see if it works. The Heat don't know if it's going to work. Obviously, this is what they feel is their best route. Like, they've determined that this is the path they're going to take with this guy in terms of how they want to coach him. But everybody understands what the talent is. Nobody's giving up on him. I actually think this is an argument to say that they haven't given up on him. If you just gifted him the starting job just because he's 7'1", and maybe because Bam likes it,
You don't learn anything that way.
you don't learn anything that way. That's actually kind of more giving up on the guy if you just sort of hand him the starting job. I think this is what coaching is going to look like, and it's the point I made before. This is a different kind of job for Erik Spoelstra and this coaching staff. This is player development, not with two-way guys who are on the fringe of the league where if it doesn't work out, cut them on the two-way. It doesn't even impact the cap, talking about no risks, right? There's a lot riding on Kel'el Ware. There's a lot riding on getting this one right. You didn't trade him for Kevin Durant. He's the guy who you picked to be the front court partner for the future with Bam Adebayo and Nikola Jovic now. That's sort of your three-headed monster in the front court now. Kel'el Ware makes all of that work, right? You need it to work. And this is how they want to make it work. It's not to say that he's not going to start even opening night if he changes dramatically over this next week.
But
He'll probably start at some point this season. I wouldn't say that there's a non-zero chance that he emerges as a starter by the end of the regular season, but you got to put him on that path to earn it. You can't just give it to him the way that they didn't give it to him when he was a rookie, and Erik Spoelstra was criticized for that.
I mean, but that's it. It's like you can't give him the carrot right away. Like, he has to be able to earn it, and that's just he hasn't done enough. And I think it's a really good point that Spo trying to find a way to push it, because at this point he just doesn't see any other alternative. But you only fight if in something that you care about. If it's just something that doesn't really matter, you wouldn't say anything. It wouldn't be a big deal. But the fact that he's trying is hard and going this route that we've seen so infrequently from Erik Spoelstra over 17 seasons of being a head coach, I think it just speaks to the kind of potential he has. Again, we the two examples I point out: Michael Beasley, a number 2 pick, who had all the talent in the world, and what was it what kept him? And just recently, over the course of the summer, said, "I wish I'd listened to Pat and the Heat coaches, because my career would have been different." He recognizes this now when he's out of the league and there's no chance for him to make it. He recognizes that he could have done things differently, that he was, in his own words, a knucklehead.
Yeah.
Hassan Whiteside. I mean, the guy had all the talent in the world, and he was playing in Tel Aviv Maccabi, because he couldn't make it in the NBA despite being a draft pick with Sacramento. Like, at some point, it's incumbent on the person, not the player, but the person, to say, this is my life that I'm fighting for, and I've got to be able to make it work. And when you put in that effort, the coaches will recognize it and give you your just rewards.
We're going to move on. Shams has more reporting on the Giannis situation in Milwaukee. We also have more details on what the Heat might be willing to offer if Giannis were available in a trade. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season's here. Well, maybe outside of South Florida, but other worlds, yeah, it is. The FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And believe me, you're going to love using FanDuel. It gives you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays, you can try player props, you can even follow the live lines during games, and it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. You see it all the time. Guys are checking in on every game because they want to see whether or not their game hits or whatever player they might have a prop on. There's so many different ways to juice up the action, and FanDuel makes it happen. If you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Go visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's over at FanDuel.com. We'll be right back.
So let's get to this Giannis report. It's pretty crazy. According to Shams, the Bucks and the Knicks held trade talks about potentially sending Giannis to New York this summer. Those talks were brief, did not lead to anything, obviously. But Shams also reported that Giannis will keep his options open depending on how the Bucks start the season. There's a ton of other interesting little nuggets in this piece. It's worth reading over at ESPN.com. But for our purposes, the idea that Giannis is going to keep his options open depending on how the Bucks start the season, that's sort of the takeaway here. If you're a fan, Heat fan or otherwise, hoping to get your hands on Giannis here. And then you've got Barry Jackson following up saying that the Heat were prepared to offer a package to Milwaukee this offseason if Giannis were to ask for a trade that did not include Bam Adebayo. The subtext being there probably included everything else, right? So something worth monitoring here now in Milwaukee. What do you make of the story?
It's hard to, I don't know. I feel like, and we were talking about this before we started recording, like part of me wants to build this up and say this is something, but to echo a game that we've played over the show for many, many years, it doesn't feel like something to me right now. It's just, I don't know what to, it feels like Shams kind of trying to come up with a story or a way to make this more interesting. Ultimately, if Giannis wants out of Milwaukee, I think we'll hear about it very publicly because he's going to try to find a place that makes him and his family very comfortable. I don't know. You mentioned that Giannis, his family's living in Athens almost exclusively now. They've moved out of the United States. I don't know if that's verified or not, or I saw that report somewhere. It kind of feels like maybe there's a lot of different pieces that have to connect together in order to kind of make something out of this, and yet I don't see it. I don't know. I think he's not happy with just one championship in Milwaukee. I think that team's not particularly great, perhaps, but is a trade where is the right trade for him in order to be within that championship window that he's looking for? Because I don't know that it exists. I don't know if Miami's that place, but I don't know if it exists elsewhere as well. So I don't know that he's actually angling for a trade at this point in time. I think Giannis, and I've given him credit for this before, he's a lot more of the ruthless on the business side. Everybody loves the kind of shucks, oh golly gee sort of attitude he brings. Oh boy, I love smoothies, etc. Like that's all great, that's all fine, but he's actually much more cutthroat than he lets on. And that being the case, I think he's trying to hold Milwaukee's feet to the fire, but I don't know that he's actually angling for something or pushing his way out of the Bucks just yet.
I would agree. I think we're far from Giannis asking for the trade and starting to push his way out. Now, that said, there's pieces of this story that start to lay the groundwork a little bit for that, right? Where there's some details here in Shams' reporting, which I don't doubt anything that Shams wrote here as it. I don't think he wrote anything false, right? I don't think he wrote anything purposely false here. Maybe it's being packaged in a way that makes it sound like it's a bigger deal than it is. But there's already some stuff coming in from Giannis' side about, hey, like waiving Damian Lillard and signing Miles Turner, doing the Damian Lillard trade initially. Like that was all done by John Horst, the Bucks GM. Like we had no input on that. I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know how much I don't believe it, right? I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of, hey, if it goes wrong in Milwaukee, it's not my fault. I had nothing to do with these moves, right? So, because the one thing that I don't think Giannis wants, I think you're right. When you say Giannis wants to desperately win another championship, he's come out and said that in multiple occasions, right?
Right.
That is important. And we know that once he feels for sure that he can't do it in Milwaukee, he's gone. And for whatever reason, he's holding on. He's holding on to hope. And that's why I think you have this report saying something like, hey, we'll kind of see how this first quarter of the season goes. And after maybe 20 or so games, he'll start to he'll look around and be like, okay, is this roster good enough? Is Miles Turner, Kevin Porter Jr., and Kyle Kuzma good enough? And then he'll make that decision, right? Based on wherever the Bucks are at and how he's feeling. So we'll get there, but yeah, until we get to that point. Go ahead.
Who benefits from this? Like you've always pointed out, like who benefits from these stories coming out? Is this a Shams driven piece, or is it Bucks management, or is this somebody on Giannis' side?
I think this is Giannis. I think Giannis is the one who benefits because he's the one who, that was the other part I was going to get to. He obviously wants to win a championship. He also does not want to look like the bad guy, to your point. He's kind of got this personality, this brand. He doesn't want to look like the bad guy who forced his way out. But if you can paint it in a way where it's, hey, man, look, we're 8 games under 500. None of the guys from the championship team are there. We're obviously going nowhere fast. Could you blame me for wanting to leave? Yeah. That might be that to me is the point that Giannis and the Bucks need to get to for Giannis to ultimately ask for a trade. And you could look at this roster right now and argue you're probably already there. But
Yep.
Giannis deserves some credit. He's going to give it a whirl. He's going to give it a try. And we'll see what happens.
No, but you're connecting the dots ahead of schedule here, because I think this is like you're seeing the dominoes in effect even before the first one has fallen, and this piece is it's kind of setting it up for like, look, there's interest, but and again, everything that he said in the past, I just want to win a title, this is important to me, this is what I want, etc. But it all sets up so perfectly for him to be coming out like roses out of this whole process, like, I gave it my all, everybody. I tried my best, but here I am. I couldn't make it work. I really wanted to do this. And then next thing you know, he's on a jet somewhere to New York, living it up, and he can buy whatever $20 smoothie you can get there in Times Square. But it's just, I mean.
I paid for an $8 Knish
here.
in Times Square. One Knish. One Knish. And I'll tell you what, I threw it out. It was horrible. I don't know what happened to Times Square.
I think it's always been this way. It's been this way for a while. Why pay reasonable prices when you can get it 3 times as expensive and half as good over in Times Square?
It's $8 for a potato. I can only imagine what they're paying for blended up fruit.
Yeah. So is there? You want to talk about the Heat aspect of this? The Knish conversation we could have at a different time.
I guess we can put a pin in the Knish there for now.
Are the Heat interested in making an offer? I think Barry Jackson had some reporting about that. And is it an offer that's viable? Because I know the way Barry made it sound, it was like, okay, that's not going to get it done.
No, I mean, the best you could do, if Bam is off the table, which was Barry's reporting, and that's how I understand it as well, because the idea would be, let's put Giannis with Bam and let's figure that part of it out. Tyler Hero, Milwaukee guy, you could try to sell John Horst and Bucks ownership on prodigal son returning, I suppose, something like that. Terry Rozier's expiring, and here's our 2 or 3 first round picks that we could swing. And then I guess it's like, take your pick. Do you want Kel'el? Do you want Nico? Do you want Jaime? Like, what do you you can't, if it were to happen this season before the trade deadline, you couldn't trade Nico because he just signed that extension, and then he gets poison pilled, and then there's a million things that would be complicated. But then, I guess it's just your pick of the young guys plus Tyler Hero as sort of the blue chipper and whatever else. You could try to put Wiggins in the trade. He makes some sense on any kind of team. I mean, the Heat have options, but if they wanted to try to match what the Knicks could do and potentially offering Karl Anthony Towns as sort of the anchor of a reset in Milwaukee, I don't think that they could compete with that. They have more picks. New York only has the 1 first round pick, so maybe if Milwaukee's interested in more picks, I don't know.
I think they should include Bam.
I know there's a lot of Heat fans that would agree with you.
I mean, what are you doing? Like, if you're really committed to building a team that you think is going to compete for a title, and you have a chance to get Giannis, if you can include Bam in a deal, and probably not much else, right? It would be Bam, and I don't even know what it would take. Maybe one young player, maybe a combination of some picks.
Bam and a first, right? I mean, if you're looking at what the Knicks offer would be, Cat and a first, Bam and a first is a better deal.
Yeah, and I think you do get better as a team. Like I wouldn't want to make that trade. I wouldn't want to make that trade, but I think Giannis is your focal point right away. He's the guy who can get you what you need in crunch time. He's your go-to player. He's been that, and I would say the supporting cast in Miami, with Powell, with Hero, with Ware, with Nico, and everybody else that's on the roster, that's a title contender.
It's Anthony Davis for Luka. That's what that trade is. It's a core piece, hard to give up, but you're getting one of the top 3 players in the NBA, so you kind of have to do it, don't you? So, Look, Barry's reporting was Miami was willing to offer a package that did not include Bam. That there were no negotiations took place. That you end up offering Bam after negotiating. You don't come out right away with Bam in your offer. So not to say that he would offer Bam or anything like that, but that's how things work, right? It doesn't mean that. Look, Giannis is on the table. I don't think it's a hot take to say if you could trade for Giannis, everything's on the table, right? Like nothing is nailed down in the house. Like all of it can go if you can get Giannis. That's the kind of player that we're talking about here, even at this stage of his career. That'll do it for us today. Thanks for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second listen, go find Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.